Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome into The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I'm your host, Justin Smith, scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Subscribers, hit the notification bell to be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. I'm here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news. And on this episode of The Process, I want to take a look at a Crimson Tide 5-star running back commit who has shut down his recruitment, pushed out the likes of Ohio State and Georgia, and that's locked in with the Crimson Tide officially set to sign a national letter of intent on Wednesday. I'll also talk about some key Alabama targets who have locked in commitment dates and times for National Signing Day. I'll also talk about some other top recruits to pay attention to heading into the early signing period, which begins on Wednesday, December 21st, the first day of the early signing period, which is going to be dubbed as National Signing Day. Time is winding down in terms of the 2023 recruiting class because, like we all know, those of you who follow recruiting very closely, most of these guys are going to sign during the early signing period. Maybe a couple of guys here and there that wait until February to sign during the traditional signing period, but this has technically become the National Signing Day. February has taken a lot of the fight and a lot of the excitement away from February, but there's definitely a lot to look forward to when it comes to next Wednesday. One guy to look forward to is Justice Haynes, a 2023 5-star running back out of Bruford High School in Georgia, who is verbally committed to the Crimson Tide and who has shut down his recruitment as of today. According to him and his father, they will not look at any other programs. They will lock in with the Crimson Tide and focus on joining Alabama in the future. This is a quote that came from his dad via Twitter. "Thank you to all the schools, coaches, and relationships that we have built through this process. We are forever grateful for your time invested. Best wishes." Now laser focused, locked, cock loaded. It looked as if Justice Haynes and his father and the Haynes family are locked in with the Crimson Tide. Despite late pushes from Georgia and Ohio State, of course, Haynes is a Georgia legacy. His dad is a product of the University of Georgia. He's turning down the Bulldogs, which he did when he verbally committed to the Crimson Tide, turning down Ohio State, who has continued to make a hard push for the Georgia product, locking in with the Crimson Tide, set to sign that national letter of intent that is big for Alabama. It was big when he verbally committed because so many people talked about him verbally committing to Georgia, even talked about him flipping to Georgia, but he stayed the course, continued to say that he was still being locked in with the Crimson Tide, and it looked as if that was true and everything that he was saying was true, so he stuck to his word. He's staying committed to the Crimson Tide, set to sign that national letter of intent on National Signing Day during the early signing period. A couple of Alabama commits here in this 2023 class have a unique opportunity. Other guys have had this opportunity in the past over the last couple of years, but this is a significant and unique opportunity because I don't think it has been this many guys. I think Ty Simpson was the only one to do it last year, but this year is actually going to be about 6 guys who are going to not only early enroll, but they are already moving in. As of today, most of them have already moved in. They are set to participate in Sugar Bowl practice with the Crimson Tide. Taking a look at the list and the graphic that we are providing you guys with now, you see that list. Eli Holstein, 4-star quarterback out of Louisiana. You have 3 offensive linemen and Miles McVay, Raquez McElderry, Wilkin Formby, the 6'8" offensive lineman out of Northridge High School in Tuscaloosa. You have some guys who are expected to play on the defensive side of the football. We can take a look at Hunter Osborne, the 4-star defensive lineman out of here at Trussville High School in Trussville, Alabama. Also Brayson Hubbard out of Ocean Springs High School in Mississippi. Brayson Hubbard is dealing with a bit of an injury, so we'll see how that will impact him possibly practicing, but taking a look at those other guys that will have an opportunity to just participate in bowl prep with the Crimson Tide as they prepare for the Sugar Bowl. Will be really interesting to see how the Crimson Tide use them. Most likely use them as numbers just to make sure that you have some guys to practice with, because you have to realize that, of course, no one on the Alabama squad has said that they will sit out this game. That is yet to be released. Hopefully we'll see how that plays out over the next couple of days as the Crimson Tide set to start practice on tomorrow on Friday. But the Crimson Tide did lose some guys to the transfer portal, so I think that as a result will call upon some recruits in the future to go ahead and join the team to at least prep for the bowl game with them. Of course, they will not participate in the bowl, but they will go through bowl practice with the Crimson Tide. Like I said at the top of the show, I do also want to talk about a couple of Alabama's top targets heading into National Signing Day. Some guys to pay attention to. One of those guys, Damari Brown, a 2023 four-star defensive back out of American Heritage High School in Plantation, Florida. Of course, the Crimson Tide have had a lot of success with defensive backs out of American Heritage. Signed Patrick Surtain. Of course, Surtain is an NFL player for the Denver Broncos. Signed Earl Little Jr. during the last recruiting cycle, and they are looking to land Damari Brown possibly. Nick Saban visited him in home recently. Took multiple visits to the Crimson Tide during the season. Took an official visit in October. Currently standing at 6'1", weighing approximately 180 pounds. He's a bigger defensive back, a guy who has experience playing cornerback, could possibly be a safety as well at the next level. I really like the way that he mirrors the wide receiver in coverage. You can tell that he's a guy who stays locked in with the wide receiver's hips, seem to know exactly where they are going. I really like his coverage skills as a cornerback out of American Heritage High School. Like I said, Nick Saban did check on him recently, and the Tide are in a good position with him heading into National Signing Day. So Brown is a defensive back to pay attention to, along with Desmond Ricks, the 2023 five-star defensive back out of IMG Academy, who reclassified to the 2023 class after being a 2024 recruit. His recruitment, it looks as if it's going to come down between the Crimson Tide and the LSU Tigers. Those are the schools he has shown the most love to since reclassifying. I think Florida was in the mix for a while, but I think these two schools have separated themselves from the pack. I think LSU really gained some momentum, coincidentally, after beating Alabama and having Ricks on campus. The Crimson Tide did host Desmond Ricks for an official visit over the weekend. The Crimson Tide look to be in a solid position with him. Like I said, it's LSU or Alabama. We'll see what happens. Not a long time, but still some days before the early signing period. A lot can happen, so we'll see what happens with Desmond Ricks. Definitely a guy to pay attention to as the Crimson Tide try to close out their 2023 recruiting class with a bang. As always, we cannot end a show by not talking about James Smith and Quay Russaw, the five-star duo out of Carver Montgomery High School in Montgomery, Alabama. They have always had a commitment day for quite some time. They were always going to commit on National Signing Day, but now we have a time around 1 p.m. Central Time. They will announce their commitment decisions. Of course, they currently have a top 6, which includes Alabama, Alabama State, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, and Ohio State. For the longest time, if you have been watching the process throughout the season, you've heard me talk about this being an Iron Bowl recruiting battle, and I always felt that way. Even though you heard things about Florida, Georgia, Ohio State seemed to be in the mix, but with them not visiting, like, everyone sort of felt like they were not really a real threat. You also had Alabama State in the mix. I appreciate the love that they gave to the HBCU, which is very, I think, critical right now in college football. But it always seemed like an Iron Bowl recruiting battle between these two, just based on respect that they have for the Alabama football program and the relationship they are built not only with guys like Charles Keller, Freddie Roach, Pete Golding, but also the relationship they are built with Nick Saban. I feel in terms of what Auburn brings to the table, I think they have a great relationship with Auburn's coaching staff. Officially visited the Tigers over the summer, visited Auburn several times during the season. They just seem to be connected to the program. It seem to have a great amount of love for some people around the Auburn football program. Of course, Auburn went through some coaching changes, had Cadillac Williams as an interim coach for some time, hired Hugh Freeze. At one point, it was a critical point in these guys' recruitment, but it was a point in time where Auburn was not in heavy contact with these guys before they hired Hugh Freeze. I remember going to their Under Armour jersey presentation ceremony, and they said that they had not been contacted by the Auburn staff, which is what you expected because Auburn did not know what it was going to do in terms of a head coach. But now they have Hugh Freeze on board. Freeze is going to put the full court pressure on these guys, do whatever he needs to do to keep these guys inside the state, just based on what the previous Auburn coaching staff has done with those guys. You're going to want to take advantage of that. So I think in the end, it's going to be an Iron Bowl recruiting battle and continue to be there. I think the Tide are in a really, really good position with the duo, but Auburn is going to swing to the very end. So we'll see what happens with James Smith and Quay Russo. I think these are priority targets for the Crimson Tide. Must get targets. Looking at James Smith, the Crimson Tide, in my opinion, continues to need to improve along the defensive front. Continue to get physical guys with that, as people say, that dog in them. And I think James Smith is one of those guys. Always a bully in the trenches, loves playing in the trenches, loves embracing contact. You have a guy like Quay Russo, plays sideline to sideline, great closing speed, elite, impressive, out of this world type of closing speed, great size. If you see his frame right now, you can make an argument that as soon as he steps on the campus, if he was to commit to Alabama, he's going to be one of the Crimson Tide's biggest inside linebackers. It's just the type of frame that Quay Russo possesses. So we'll see what happens with the Carver duo National Signing Day as they announce their commitments around 1 p.m. I wouldn't surprise me if it will be live streamed on ESPN as well. But thank you guys so much for joining me today on this episode of The Process. Be sure to hit that like button before you leave. Hit the subscribe button as well. Subscribers, hit the notification bell for me so you can be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. Then go over to touchdowналabama.com, pick up your subscription today. As always, I am Justin Smith, scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.